What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. This episode of the podcast is our preview for the AFC West division ahead of the upcoming NFL season. And since it's the AFC West, you know what that means. This is the last divisional preview on Fouled Out before the NFL season gets started. And Matt and I are so excited to have football that matters back. I will be watching so much college football this weekend, but I am really excited to get into the NFL and start talking about it every week on this podcast. This episode is also episode 200 of Fouled Out. I can't believe we're here. It's been, I think, 3 or 4 years since Matt and I started the podcast. You know, we used to live together at Western Michigan, and when I graduated, I moved away. So Matt and I don't see each other as often as we used to, and we don't get to talk sports as often as we used to, which is kind of why we started the podcast as a weekly touch point to get together and kind of connect and talk sports. And it's been super fun to do that with him for 200 episodes now. You know, so we really appreciate you guys listening and keeping us going. One of the big motivations to keep going is the listeners, and interacting with you guys and talking about sports every week is one of my favorite things to do. But this podcast really would not have been possible without the support of my wife. She's the one that encouraged me to start it in the first place. And during the times that it felt overwhelming or it felt like I wanted to quit and stop, she never let me. She keeps pushing me to do it no matter how things change in our life. She's supported me doing this through the birth of 2 children, through me getting my master's degree, her going back to school. Like, she is truly an amazing woman who pushes me to follow my dreams, both on and off this mic. And I can't tell you guys how much I appreciate her. So I love you, babe. Thank you for all your support. And thank you guys for listening, because that's awesome too. We really appreciate that. So make sure you reach out to us, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. During our divisional previews, Matt and I have been giving bold predictions and hot takes for each division in the NFL. And we would love to hear yours ahead of the upcoming season or throughout the season. Let us know how you guys are feeling about our picks, your picks, our team, your team, whatever you guys want to talk about. You can reach out to us. Promise that we will respond to you, and is not a spam account. You're not going to get newsletters and crazy stuff. You will get me responding to you via email. But for now, let's grab Matt and let's talk about the AFC West. Last pod before the NFL season. Let's go. All right, Matt is here for the AFC West divisional preview and something else very special on this episode. Matt, welcome to episode 200 of the Fouled Out Sports Podcast.
That's a lot.
Can you believe that this is literally our 200th episode? Our first episode of this podcast was, God, what is it, like 4 years ago now? We previewed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl.
Yeah.
When Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes.
Yes.
And just talk about a guy who stays winning. The first episode of this podcast, we talked about Patrick Mahomes. And now episode 200, we got to talk about Patrick Mahomes again, because we're doing the AFC West preview. But yeah, man, congrats on 200 episodes. That in and of itself is an accomplishment that we've kept this going for,
I know,
4 years and 200 episodes.
It does not feel like it's been 4 years, like, at all.
No, it's been 4 years. It's been 2 children. I've had 2 kids while we did the podcast. Like, we've switched jobs and got degrees and done all sorts of shit, but the podcast has stayed strong. So thanks for taking this journey with us. Everybody that's listening, really appreciate you guys. And thank you for helping make 200 episodes possible. But all right, the 200th episode is the AFC West preview for the upcoming NFL season. I get to lead off because it is an AFC podcast, starting with my biggest narrative for the AFC West. Are the Chargers ruining Justin Herbert's career?
Yes.
I think Justin Herbert is one of, if not the most interesting players in the NFL this season. He is a guy who I think almost every single football fan would tell you is like a top 5 to 7 quarterback in the league. But he's also a guy who has all the numbers to back that up and none of the winning stats because his career, he's 30-32 with one playoff appearance where they blew a 20-point lead. He's like the Chargers personified because he has all the stats and it all looks beautiful, but it just doesn't result in anything.
Yep.
So as a result of this, the Chargers fire their coach and their GM. They hire a new GM who hires Jim Harbaugh to be their head coach, who hires Greg Roman to be the offensive coordinator, who, if you have listened to this podcast since its inception 4.5 years ago, you will know through memes that Greg Roman loves nothing more than running the football.
Greg Roman believes that playoff game for the Ravens against the Chiefs last year is the worst thing that ever happened, and it's the one time he's been right.
I was going to say, why do I agree with Greg Roman? Fucking Matt, this was supposed to be a safe space. This is episode 200. You don't have to bring up the Ravens running the ball 6 times against the Chiefs in the AFC Championship at home.
I mean, it was already going to come up when you went to sleep.
Ugh, it does every night. Who said I've slept since then? I can't. Every time I close my eyes, I see Lamar Jackson throwing into triple coverage. It's horrible. But so the front office brings in Jim Harbaugh, who has been a very successful coach everywhere he's gone. Program builder, like nothing but success and rubbing people the wrong way. But that usually comes in year 4. He hires Greg Roman. So 2 guys who absolutely adore running the football. Absolutely adore it. Like Michigan, the San Francisco 49ers, Stanford, everywhere Jim Harbaugh has gone, he likes to kick people's asses and run the football. The front office also trades away Justin Herbert's number 1 receiver for a 4th round pick. They cut the number 2 receiver in Mike Williams because they have the worst cap situation in the league. And for some reason, they're the only team that can't figure out how to create cap space without cutting an important player. They let Eckler walk and they let Gerald Everett, the tight end, walk in free agency. So that's his top 3 pass catchers from last year. Keenan Allen, Jared Everett, Austin Eckler, plus Mike Williams, who is his wide receiver 2, who was hurt all season. So kind of like your top 4 options. So he comes into this season with DJ Chark, Ladd McConkey, Josh Palmer, Quentin Johnston, who's a bust, Will Dissly. And then the running backs are all the running backs that the Ravens no longer wanted when they got Derrick Henry. So they have Gus Edwards and the J.K. Dobbins combo, with the plan seemingly being, let's take the ball out of our best players' hands and hand it to running backs who have been fine at different stops.
Yep.
Like Gus Edwards, good last season, double-digit touchdowns, but it's a result of having Lamar Jackson as a threat. Right? Yeah. So I look at this and I'm like, are we still going to consider Justin Herbert a top 5 to 7 quarterback after this season? Because if he doesn't have the stats and they don't win games, what does that mean? Or if they do win games and he doesn't have the stats, what does that mean for him? And I'm very fascinated to see how this plays out because I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with the Chargers this season. Like the number 1 team, I have absolutely zero clue how this is going to go.
Like I knew where I wanted to go in the win range for them. But I found myself sitting there. I'm like, well, it's either this or it's this. Like, there's no in between here. It's
not like 5-12. It's 5 or 12. And there's no in between.
Exactly.
I have them at negative 5-12 because that's how unsure I am. But because all of the signs to me, and we'll talk about the actual win range for them in a minute, but all of the signs for them point to this is not going to be good offensively.
Yeah.
Your number 1 receiver is Josh Palmer, who I think may be a good fantasy pick with how late he's going and considering there's no target competition except for a rookie, but he's not a number 1 in the league. He might not even be a number 2. Like last season, he was like fourth, I think, on their team in catches when Mike Williams was already down. And then you have like just kind of washed up running backs that the Ravens didn't want anymore. But at the exact same time, Jim Harbaugh has been instantly successful everywhere he's ever gone. Like his first year is usually a really good one. So part of me is just like, does Jim Harbaugh just like know what he's doing and this team's going to win double digit games this season? And the other part of me is like, no, because they're the Chargers and they have to charge. They have to charge.
I was willing to bet on Jim Harbaugh doing what Jim Harbaugh does and just kind of like winning wherever he goes, right up until the Greg Roman hire. And I was like, it can happen just because it's always happened. But I am not betting on a Greg Roman offense getting W's in the modern game.
They're ruining Justin Herbert in front of our eyes. What's your biggest narrative for the AFC West?
How many more Chiefs are going to be arrested this year? It's been bad, guys. It's been real bad. It really hasn't gotten better. So, I mean, do they get this shit under control? Because, like, yeah, they have Patrick Mahomes and they're going to win games because nothing else matters when you have Patrick Mahomes. But, I mean, it's a real bad look. And if it doesn't stop, there's definitely going to be more heat coming down the pipeline.
The best part about doing the podcast on Zoom is that I'm sending Matt a meme while I'm listening to him talk about Chiefs players getting arrested. And the meme is about Chiefs players getting arrested and not getting suspended, while Jameson Williams got suspended for gambling on a college football game.
Yeah.
But it sounds like Rashee Rice is not going to get suspended after driving 120 miles an hour in a street race and causing a massive wreck that killed people. So, yeah, just never forget with the Chiefs. And like, I know people are going to say this is sour grapes because their dynasty is replacing my dynasty. The Chiefs front office has been and continues to be giant pieces of shit who care about nothing more than winning football games. The only reason they cut Kareem Hunt was because there was a video.
Mm-hmm.
They've been, they had Eric Bieniemy for years and years and years. They were happy to keep him after everything that went on with him. There will be no punishment for Rashee Rice from the NFL or from the Chiefs, especially not the Chiefs. And they just have guys like getting arrested left and right. They're not going to do anything about it. They're just going to be like, look, there's Patrick Mahomes, who like Patrick Mahomes' whole family is shitty, so he fits right in.
Every year, when the players are pulled, the Chiefs ownership is rated like among the lowest of all 32 teams. Like the players don't even like playing for them. Obviously, you like winning.
Yeah. I was going to say, but you know what the thing is that as crappy as they are and all the awful things they've done, which like I only listed a few, but we can go on forever because don't forget that Tyreek Hill played here for years as well.
Yeah.
But they win football games better than anybody else does since Tom Brady left the Patriots. So like you can get away with that when you're winning football games.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. You can, well, no, I say Tom Brady. Well, since Tom Brady retired, because I will remind Chiefs fans until the day that I die that Tom Brady is 2-0 against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, and Patrick Mahomes will never, ever get a chance to tie that record. So he can have 15 Super Bowls, and I'll be like, yeah, but he never beat Tom Brady. I'm going to be annoying as shit until the day I die with Patrick Mahomes fans. So y'all have that to look forward to. All right, win ranges for the AFC West, starting with the Denver Broncos. Vegas has their over-under at 5.5 this season. I have them at 2-6. So they're kind of primed to be, I think, the worst team in the league, if not one of the worst. The QB room is absolutely brutal with Jarrett. I know I'm a starter somewhere, Stidham, and Bo Nix, who like the Bo Nix hype is just the funniest thing to me right now because when he was drafted, we all looked at it. We're like, God damn, the Broncos. They just drafted the sixth quarterback in like the top 11 or 12 picks out of desperation because everybody else was gone. And they clearly were not expecting that. And then now we're all supposed to believe that Bo Nix is going to be like a good starter for them in year one. In game one, who do they play week one? Ooh, the Seattle Seahawks. Go get the Seattle Seahawks defense in your fantasy league for week one. It ain't gonna be great. But yeah, defense is bad. They were 30th in DVOA last season, and outside of Patrick Surtain, they have no playmakers at any level. So I don't see it being great. Matt, what's your win range for the Denver Broncos?
I have 4-6. I'm a little higher on them, and I'm a little less low on Bo Nix than you are, probably. Uh, it's more the upside that I have concerns about with him. They're a team that's really just needed a full rebuild. They need a full rebuild, and the Russell Wilson trade absolutely fucked them.
The Russell Wilson everything. Fuck
Yes.
them. They not only traded for him, but they paid the man. And
Yeah.
then they paid a ridiculous amount of money to get rid of the man
Yeah.
this offseason. Everything about that fucked them.
So bad.
Team 2 is the Kansas City Chiefs. Vegas over under is 11.5 wins, tied for the highest number with the 49ers. I have the Chiefs at 11-14 this season. They have Patrick Mahomes. That's it. That's the analysis. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. I thought last season was basically like the worst season imaginable for them, and they still won 11 games. Now you've somehow given Patrick Mahomes more weapons. They have Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I have 10-13. Same analysis.
Yeah. There is no other analysis. You're just gonna win double-digit games every single season. You have Patrick Mahomes. That's it. All right, I got it right this year. The alphabetical order, the Las Vegas Raiders go first because they're LAS instead of LOS, which we've talked about this before, is that one is LA and one is LO, and the one that you expect to be LA is not LA. The over-under number for the Las Vegas Raiders is 6.5. Matt, I have the Las Vegas Raiders at 7-10. You've been waiting for the bomb since I told you earlier this week.
I really want to hear why.
I am like the only person I know who's high on the Raiders this season. You remember how many games the Raiders won last year?
I don't. I honestly don't.
The Raiders were 8-9 last season, with a very large portion of their season, the quarterback being Jimmy Garoppolo, literally the worst starter in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
Like, if you watch the receiver show and watch how many times Davante Adams thinks about killing himself in that show on the field, where he's just like, Jimmy Garoppolo sucked the absolute soul out of that man. So you won 8 games with him and Aiden O'Connell last season.
Yeah.
Now you have Gardner Minshew as your starter. I am not going to sit here and tell you that Gardner Minshew is like great shakes. But he was 7-6 as the starter of the Colts last season. And he should have won them the division over the Houston Texans. Remember that Colts and Texans game came all the way down to the wire for basically like control of the division late in the season? Gardner Minshew threw the first down pass, and that running back dropped the wide open pass to give the Houston the ball back.
Yeah.
Like, people forget that. Gardner Minshew Serviceable starting quarterback.
He's got the the ineffable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that guy just has no stop, and like he will pull out the play that you need in the most crucial moment because like everyone else is dog tired and he is still just going balls to the walls.
So like I'm not going to say Gardner Minshew is even a top like 20 quarterback in this league, top 25, whatever.
Yeah.
But just to go from like literally the worst quarterback play in the NFL last season with Jimmy Garoppolo to someone who's serviceable, I think is a massive upgrade.
Hmm.
But that's not the reason I like the Raiders this season. Like, I think they'll be fine offensively, especially because he has weapons. Like, Devontae Adams still has some juice. I like Jacoby Myers. Really like Brock Bowers. I think I like what the Raiders did there, where they're like, we need a quarterback, but this guy is like a unique talent that's too hard to pass up.
Yeah.
We're going to take him and we're going to play. So it's like Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer are your two tight ends. Then Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, like running backs, whatever. Zamir White's fine. The line's not great, but like they're going to, I think, overcome that a bit more this season. I think the defense is going to be nasty. And when I say nasty, I don't mean like good. I mean, nobody's going to want to play them this season. You have a defense that's got an attitude led by Max Crosby. And then you bring in Christian Wilkins to that, who's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, a dude who is like a nasty, dirty player. I said it in the offseason. I was like, they may not beat Patrick Mahomes. They're going to beat the shit out of Patrick Mahomes. I think the Raiders defense is like the ultimate. I really don't want to play them this weekend defense this year. And people forget like how nasty that defense got the end of the year last year after they got Jack Jones. They were like, they beat the Chiefs. They made Patrick Mahomes look like shit and they beat the shit out of him while doing it. Now you bring in Christian Wilkins. Malcolm Kuntz had like started breaking out last season, could have a bigger breakout as an edge player this year. And can you get anything out of Tyree Wilson? We'll see. But like, I just think that front line is going to be a terror this season. And it's going to be dirty stuff. It's going to be late stuff. It's going to be stuff that I don't respect or appreciate, but it's going to happen. So yeah, over under 6.5. I have them at 7 to 10. I've already placed the bet. Love the over for the Las Vegas Raiders this season. They won 8 games last year. I don't see the case for them being worse.
I hear you, and I don't even know that I say I expect them to be worse. I always worry about a middling team like that goes out and literally spends top dollar on the number one free agent on the market. Historically, that usually doesn't work out.
Off-season champions, baby.
Yeah, that is kind of where I've pumped the brakes on them. Because I agree with like your assessment of like the potential for that defense. And God, what's his name? Antonio Pierce is like he has breathed life into that team. So I mean I don't think they're gonna be an easy out for anyone this year. Um I I still have them 6 to 8, but it's pushing them up to 9, playing that division. Like,
I pushed them up to 10.
yeah,
I think we're at worst they go 3-3 in the division.
I feel like they could very well go 2-4. I'm not saying I expect them to, but it's like I don't feel like there's enough there offensively for me to be like, yep, for sure. For sure they're sweeping one of these two.
Yeah, I think that case makes sense too. But from a gambling perspective, being over under 6.5, I'm like, I already smashed that over. I really like that one this season because
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
yeah, even if they have to go 7-10 to hit it. And I don't see them being that much worse than last year. So the last team in the division is the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this is probably going to be another unpopular pick, but I have them at 5-9. So their over under in Vegas is 8.5 right now. I just I very much do not know what to expect from this team. And I think it could be good year one under Jim Harbaugh, or I think it could be an abject disaster and that they've like really fucked Justin Herbert and that he could be demanding a trade next offseason. It I have so much negativity around this team that it makes me believe they're going to win 9 games. This is the 2023 Denver Broncos special where I was like, there is no way they're going to win 9 games. But the over under was 8.5. And I was like, oh God, they're going to win 9 games. And they came close. They won 8 last season. The Denver Broncos did. So I put 9 in my win range. I could see them being over 500. I think that if Jim Harbaugh comes in here and wins 9 games, that's a very successful start to his tenure with the roster he's being given. I don't see him coming in here and winning like 12. Not with the Chiefs in your division. And I
No.
think, obviously, I think the Raiders are going to be better than other people do. So I think this is the third best team in the division, but also the bottom could completely fall out on them. And I have no idea what's going to happen.
We have the exact same range. Okay.
Boom sauce.
So lock it in.
Yep. All right. Bold predictions for the AFC West. I I was so happy when I came up with this one. I mentioned on last week's pod that I was really excited with the creativity around the bolds this season. That
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I was cooking here. The Las Vegas Raiders will finish with the most roughing the passer penalties in the NFL this season. So Baltimore and Washington had the most roughing the passer penalties against last season with 6. Vegas only had 1. So like that's why it's bold, right? Because they only had 1 last season. I'm saying they're going to lead the whole league. Do you know which individual player had the most roughing the passer penalties called against them last season?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that was Christian Wilkins.
You would be correct. It was Christian Wilkins who had 3 by himself.
That was risky because there's not a whole lot of limbs that can hold him.
It's very true. Kansas City benefited the second most from roughing the passer last season. They have
Shocking.
five penalties called in their favor with Patrick Mahomes. The other quarterbacks on the Raiders schedule. So Mahomes twice, Herbert twice, Lamar Jackson, Matt Stafford, Joe Burrow, and Tua Tagovailoa. Tua is very borderline for what I'm trying to get at here, but they have some guys who are going to get like the superstar calls. They have the dirtiest player maybe in the entire league who got called for 3 of these by himself last year. And you're going to like, I just think the attitude again is going to be absolutely nasty up front, and that their whole goal is like beat the shit out of people, do it after the whistle. Don't let Patrick Mahomes get comfortable, especially when he's coming into our house. Like we're going to knock people around this season. So I expect them to have lots of like QB hits that are not legal and come after the whistle. And I was like, man, there's going to be like illegal use of hands to the face a lot. There's going to be late hits. There's going to be roughing the passer. And again, I just think it's going to be the team that nobody wants to play this year. What is your bold prediction?
That was definitely a creative one.
Yeah.
I have that's gonna be a fun one to track. Mine goes to, I guess, not just the Denver Broncos, specifically to Bo Nix. Bo Nix will finish this season top 5 in completion percentage and outside of the top 20 in passing yards.
Woof.
even watching him during preseason, who he was at Oregon, like he is a guy who understands coverage, at least reading pre-snap. He's not unintelligent. He is decisive. He's pretty accurate. At least in the short to intermediate stuff for sure. What he doesn't do is push the ball down the field. Not that he can't do it, it's just that he doesn't do it. Period. And I know it was only preseason, but man, we saw a lot of screens, a lot of checkdowns. I think we're gonna see a lot of that from him starting week one. And like he's going to rack up the completions. They're maybe not gonna go for much, but like he's just gonna keep completing passes.
Florida State played Georgia Tech week 0 this past Saturday for the college football season. Georgia Tech pulling off the upset over number 10 Florida State to start the year, which I think just sets us up for the beauty that's going to be college football this season. There was a point in the game where DJ Uyunglele, the quarterback for Florida State, was like 13 of 19 or 14 of 19 and was averaging negative 0.1 air yards per attempt because everything was like at or behind the line of scrimmage for him.
Yeah.
I see that being Bo Nix this season. I also think the beautiful thing about your bold is that if he completes one pass, if he goes 1 of 1 and then tears his ACL, you technically are correct because he would have had 100% completion percentage and 3 yards. I feel like I don't even need to ask this question, but
that would be so much more than that would. Well, I guess not so much, but it's still more than Aaron Rodgers did last year.
The Jets are on Monday Night Football to start the season against the San Francisco 49ers. And I saw a meme the other day. It's like Aaron Rodgers has an opportunity to do the funniest fucking thing ever.
I'll fucking do it again.
I feel like I don't need to ask you this question, but who are you picking to win the AFC West this season?
Yeah, that's gonna be the Chiefs because I just don't bet against Patrick Mahomes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I have the Chiefs as well. So that is it for us in episode 200. As always, you can find Fouled Out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Gmail, fouledOutSports@gmail.com, and you can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It is a long name, but you can't miss it. All right, here is the plan for next week. We have now previewed all 8 divisions and picked our division winners. We will recap our division winners as well as our bold predictions so that everything is all in one place at the end of the season when I go back to listen to it, when I inevitably lose this Excel spreadsheet I've started. Then we will give you guys our picks for the 3 wild cards for the AFC and the NFC, along with all of the award winners, the Super Bowl contestants, and the Super Bowl winner, as we do every season. We will go to the Husey Awards, which will include the pick that we regret the most, our favorite season-long gambling props, along with some other awards that we will give out. And then we'll jump into the week 1 preview, where every week on this podcast, we're going to give you, or every week on the podcast this year, we're going to give you our favorite gambling pick for Thursday Night Football, whether it's the game, player props, whatever it may be, and then 1 pick for the weekend, and then wrap up with our scold and bold of the offseason, the segment. It comes back. It was a super fun segment to do last season. So, Matt, you think about this before next week. You have the entire offseason to pick from. You get 1 bold and 1 scold to kick off the year. And that'll be our week 1 pod. That'll come out before the game start next week. And then we'll be back weekly every week this year with gambling picks, bolds and scolds from every week, and then as well as breaking down all the NFL action. Matt, 200 episodes in the books. We made it. Beautiful way to kick off the NFL season. Thank you for taking this journey with me, my friends.
I'll meet you back here in the next 100.
We'll see you soon. All right. Everybody enjoy college football week 1 this weekend.
Yes.
Clemson plays Georgia at noon on Saturday, a game that's going to be an absolute schmeckeldorfing because
Yeah.
Georgia's just reached that point where it's like every week 1 they have a
Well,
big
and
game.
Clemson's a joke now.
But more interestingly, Notre Dame plays at Texas A&M Saturday night, 8 p.m. And then Sunday, since Matt is correct, we don't work on Monday. LSU and USC play. So the post Caleb Williams era kicks off against what's his name? Garrett Nussmeier is the new quarterback for LSU. It's a ton of hype around that kid. So fun games this weekend to watch. Just excited to have like real football that matters back. It's a beautiful thing. Matt and I will be back next week with the Picks Pod and the week 1 preview to kick off the NFL season. I couldn't be more happy about that. It's an awesome, awesome thing.
Yeah. No, we get to be basically coked out on football for the next several months.
Mm-hmm. It's football season, baby. I'm gonna send you that Elmo meme of like,
yeah,
the fruit is my family and the cocaine is the football. Just smashing his face into the cocaine multiple times. But all right, my friend, I'll talk to you soon.
Later, guys.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.